Boom, boom, boom. There's the
Hey,
trifecta. Welcome to Wednesday, everybody. It is exactly 4 o'clock on, can you believe it? The 1st of June, 2022. Halfway through the season, as they say. I'm Matthew. We got Dr. Dave. We got Chad from Mental Joe here. We want to welcome all of the vets who choose to join us and everybody else that chooses to join us. How's everybody feeling today?
good. Rocking the Mental Joe gear here today.
I like it. You got the same shirt Chad's got on. Good for you guys.
We text each other. We had a twinsy a little bit before we jumped on.
I love it, man. I'm really happy about that. I'm only pissed I didn't wear mine. I just have my bad day, not a bad life t-shirt on.
It's a great shirt too. I love
listen,
that shirt.
They're all great shirts, and a reminder that what Chad is trying to do with Mental Joe is pretty cool. The proceeds benefit these non-traditional therapies for vets, and so you can buy some of this gear. They got hats, shirts, hoodies. My hoodie that you sent me is one of my favorite things ever, man. It's a great lightweight cotton. I absolutely love it.
Fantastic. Love to hear all the feedback I can get. We're going to improve the gear as we get going. So.
Is that right?
Yeah, we actually just talked to an apparel company today that does all American made golf stuff that wants to partner up with us. So we might be launching a golf line here in the next 6 to 9 months. So
was it Devereaux by chance?
No,
okay.
It's called Qued, Qued. It's a small American brand here. So we're looking to see what we can do. They can kind of take our logos and stuff and kind of blotch it all over and do weird little designs and stuff. So kind of excited to talk to those folks to see what we can come up with.
It must be so weird going from being an Army Ranger to running an apparel line. Like, what are you doing?
I don't know what I'm doing. That's the whole thing. I'm just winging it. We're making it happen. You know, you go from jumping out of planes to being in real estate for 20 years, and you just say, okay, well, let's go do apparel. Hats are cool.
Hey, listen, Dr. Day was a psychiatrist for, 2 decades, and now he's doing off-roading classes up in Moab next week. I mean, who is this guy?
Got to try something different.
I think you got to be excited about it. Now, Dave, you're one of these guys. You got one of the new Broncos, and I love those things. They did such a good job making them look nostalgic. Are they fun to drive?
Oh, it's a blast.
Really?
I mean, the handling on the highway is amazing, you know, compared to like Jeeps that can get kind of tippy, and it's good. I've taken it to California, and we're gonna drive up to Utah with the boys. So make a road trip out of it. Yeah.
I've had Pathfinders and Xteras and Jeeps and a couple of other, cars that you can take off-roading from time to time. And there's no rush like my car might tip over. There's no rush quite like that. So I hope you have a great time when you get up there and do the thing. For today's podcast, or for today's session rather, the biggest news of the day is the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial, which sadly, guys, we're not going to spend even a minute talking about, if that's okay with you.
I have no clue what's going on with it, but yeah, that's fantastic.
It's over. He got 15 million. She got 2 million. It's done. It's who knows what's next, but it's over. What all of us unanimously thought would be kind of interesting to chat about today is the holiday in which we just wrapped up a couple of days ago. Now, I'm going to tell you about my Memorial Day in just a minute. How was your Memorial Day? Dave, we'll start with you.
Spent Memorial Day with family. I can tell you from other people that I've talk to, especially if Memorial Day is hitting you personally, personal losses and things like that, having some kind of a ritual can be very healing. But we can come back to that in a little bit.
All right. What'd you do, Chad?
I'm going to kind of flip it on Dr. Dave here. When I kind of made a ritual 6 years ago. I got married on Memorial Day weekend 6 years ago. So this past weekend was the 6-year anniversary of me and my wife. And then obviously the little boy. So thank you. Appreciate it. So in good terms, I guess, all of American, right? We took some time to ourselves. The boys went and played with their aunt at a play place, and we went and saw Top Gun 2.
So good. So the movie's amazing, isn't it?
Top Gun 1, like what? Top Gun 2.
Did you see it, Dave? Did you see it?
I haven't seen 2 yet. We just watched 1 last night.
It's so good.
You're going to love it. We did the same thing. We sat the boys down Friday night, and then Saturday we went to the big dance, and it was just so impressive. I mean, so impressive. So, okay, so your ritual is I celebrate my anniversary.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's one of those things it's depending upon who you are and what traumas or things have hit you, the weekend can be kind of heavy. I think people kind of forget in this day and age what that weekend or what other holidays are in general that we have. You know, they think, oh, it's a 3-day weekend. I can eat hot dogs and drink as many Trulies as possible. Right. You know,
yeah.
we forget the true meaning of this stuff at that time. So for us, I just kind of, when we got married, it's always been a special weekend to me, being from a military family. So, you know, like 6 years ago, we started a different tradition to make it kind of a happier weekend, if you will. So
there you go. There you go. I got to tell you, my Memorial Day was lights out. Listen to this. So we're hanging out. We got the whole family. Everybody's doing their thing, and we had a great day. Then it's like the evening time, and you know we've had enough of the kids, and so they're off with their friends playing. And my youngest son is at the park. He's him and his buddies 3 weeks ago have during bulk pickup decided that they're going to take a Barbie car, one of those cars that you get your 4-year-old, you know, that they ride around in with the battery operated. Okay. Him and his 3 buddies who are 13 are going to take this Barbie car and they're going to bring it home. They're going to paint it pink and blue. And they're going to take one of my batteries and they're going to put it in there and they're going to fix it. Well, their idea is great. It works out perfectly. Turns out it was just a battery issue. So now you have 13-year-olds driving a Barbie car around the neighborhood, right? And they're having a great time. And they're at the park. And my son has figured out that if he sits on the back, he can kind of pop a wheelie. So he's on the back of this Barbie car in the park and he kicks the car. And it goes and flies straight up. And the hood flips open. The battery falls on his head.
Oh.
Slices his forehead open about 1.5 inches in length. Right here on the side, right up by his head. And he goes to, you know, reach up for it. And obviously, there's blood all over his hands. His amazing parents aren't answering their phone. That's me and my wife. And so he has to call the buddy that he's with. Their parents, they come over and they go to the park, they pick them up, they bring them home. We get a look at it. We're suturing them up. And I kind of love this stuff. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of love this stuff. When my kids get hurt, I love taking care of them. And I'm like, we got this, no big deal. So we get the cut, we get it all bandaged out, I get it sutured up. We're almost there. We're almost done with the final dressing. When all of a sudden, his buddy, who's standing right there in the bathroom, faints. Head smacks the tile in my bathroom floor. Poor kid chips his tooth, right?
Oh no.
I mean, and because he was dehydrated, and of course the series of events and all the blood and the cutting open and all the things, right? It's just a lot. And so my Memorial Day wrapped up like that. It was a wild ride.
Well, I hope your son isn't listening, but of course the next step is to strap an additional 6-volt battery on and put drift tires on it.
I think you're right.
Because they run on 24 volts, you can push them to 36 without breaking anything.
This is so good to know. I hope he is watching it. You know me. That ought to tell you the kind of parent I am. Right? It's like if they're gonna have a bike accident, get hurt, I'm the parent who's like, okay, let's get back on the bike next week. You know. Let's keep it going. But yeah, that was our Memorial Day. And so we didn't really have any ceremony. We really didn't have any of those things. I, coming from a military family, obviously recognize the significance of Memorial Day. But I do pick up on what you guys are putting down, which is it does seem to be there's a sentiment there. And it's not even just Memorial Day. It's that holidays have seemingly lost a little bit of their luster, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think part of that is, you know, drift occurs in everything, right? So drift occurs in relationships, you know, the exciting feeling that you had when you first started dating and all the things that you would go above and beyond to win the other person over. And, you know, once you've been married for a while, you really have to put an effort in to stay on top of things and maintain the relationship. It doesn't happen naturally and automatically without some conscious effort to it. And I think similar, the holidays have some drift associated with them too. If you think about the purpose of holidays in general, why they were started, is a remembrance. Something happened, either good or bad, and we want to remember that event and take some time and reflect on it and reflect on the significance of it. I think some of the big denomination churches have this down. So if you've ever looked at like a Catholic church or a older Protestant church, they have an entire church calendar, which is basically a series of remembrances, for each of the major events that happened during the church year. And so every year your mind is refreshed of the important elements of the Christian faith. And as a country, we've set aside certain days for remembrances. But I think it's turned into, okay, we have time off, we can have a barbecue, we can get together, and kind of lose the significance of why we're doing it in the first place.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, and we've all just been running so damn hard and so damn fast that, like, I mean, that's what the holiday provides us. The holiday does provide us an opportunity to breathe and to sort of take it in. And like Chad said, have some hot dogs and a couple of beers and relax with your buddy. For those that might be picking up on the similar vibe, that maybe the holiday doesn't have the significance, doesn't have the meaning. What do you think that group of folks needs to see? What are they missing? Do they feel like people aren't as patriotic anymore? Do they? I mean, what do you think is rubbing, or maybe even you guys specifically, what's rubbing you the wrong way?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think a lot of it's. I mean, I grew up in Montana, right? So Billings, Montana. When I was, grew up in Billings, it was 80,000 people. It's the biggest city in Montana. Right now, it's probably 120, 130,000 people. I think people lose a sense of community. When I was little, 4th of July, Memorial Day weekends, it was small town parades, to not only recognize but honor those who are with us, who are still serving, who are no longer with us. And you get that drilled into at such a small age of how important these holidays are. And I think we've drifted away from that community sense of, let's do something. One thing we want to do, with our Mental Joe apparel is get into parades and stuff, whether they be here, just to have that, and then also hand out some apparel or what have you, and make it a tradition in our home. And hopefully that kind of sticks with our boys as they get older and understanding these, or like even, Veterans Day, it's November 11th every single year. I don't think a lot of people pay attention to that day unless you're an actual veteran. Last corporate job I was in, they didn't even give you the day off. You had to take that day off if you wanted it. So I think we're just losing the foresight of just community as a whole and what these things really mean to us.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this a little bit today, and I thought, okay, so so what are some reasons maybe why this is happening, right? And here's what I feel a sense of. As a society, as a culture, as we are shifting away. There's still a lot of people that buy into it, but you guys have to admit there's a lot more people that are buying into, like, maybe there's a way to do this where we don't have to use the military. Maybe we don't have to kill everybody every time. Maybe that doesn't be, maybe that's not how we have to solve all of the problems inevitably. And a certain sense of that has made folks disenfranchised with the military and all that it means, right? Because anybody who's seeing war up close and personal knows how awful it is, and knows what it does to people, and knows how it hurts people. And yes, there might be some things that come away with after it, but people are asking questions now of, is it all worth it? And so maybe that's some of what we're feeling, is that middle space now where, you think about what the era you grew up in, me, all of us, right? You had a lot of World War I, a lot of World War II, a lot of Vietnam, Korean. That was a big thing. And whether we want to admit it or not, the Iraq, Afghanistan, I don't know how you guys felt about it, but it didn't feel like Vietnam to me. It didn't feel like World War II to me. It didn't feel like most of us were doing pretty normal shit the whole time the thing was going on.
Yeah.
And so I think it's some of that. We're navigating a little bit of that space right now where people are sorting out those feelings. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. I mean, for sure, World War II, everybody was on board with it, whether you wanted to or not. I mean, there was rationing. People were making sacrifices in their own hometown while family members were fighting overseas. I mean, so it really was an entire nation's effort. So there's probably very few people, if any, that weren't directly affected by it. But the more recent conflicts, we send people off to war, but we're going about our normal lives and really not thinking about it all that much. I mean, how long have we been in Afghanistan and Iraq? It's been, over a decade, right? So you just forget, and people aren't having to make those sacrifices. So I think it's not on people's minds the same way that it was during World War II.
Yeah, and I think to that too, Dr. Dave, that a lot of people, with the sacrifice thing, if it doesn't hit them at home right away, right? If there's no skin in the game, let's say, it's kind of a it's
so
there.
They just can't connect the dots, Chad, right?
No.
Like they can't connect the dot, right?
Perfect example of, let's just look at Russia and Ukraine right now with what's going on and all the money that we're sending over there. You hear about it, here and there on the news now, but it's not the 5 o'clock deadline. You've got to, vomit out the Russian Ukraine talk point anymore. It's kind of
eventually cycles through.
That's it. It just cycles through. It doesn't touch us at home. And I think it's sad, but with that, I won't, we got to look at the bigger picture, because that could come knocking on our front doorstep sooner than later too. We're seeing it in gas prices, we're seeing it in inflation, we're seeing it in other areas that hit us. So I think sooner or later, some of us as Americans, we're really going to have to kind of wake up and, look at maybe rationing and whatnot. There might be a footprint of us being there sooner than later. So,
well, maybe a time to come together, right? It would certainly do that. It was there would be some unification there. What else is on your mind, Dave?
I think there's been a shift culturally in the last generation or so, where I don't think people take the time to appreciate and respect the past as much as previous generations did, and even gratitude. I find myself talking with patients about gratitude, but it's something that we need to be reminded of. It's not something that's automatically in our subconscious. And I think it's a good idea, even for me, to remind myself to have gratitude for things. But I think it was more of a natural thing in the past, and now we've drifted away from that. And that's one of the important aspects of holidays and remembrances is, not only thinking about the situation that you're marking on the calendar, but reflecting on what the sacrifice was and having some gratitude for it, being thankful for things. Thankfulness and gratitude lifts your own spirit as well. It kind of puts things in perspective instead of constantly being negative and complaining about things and being sour toward other people. If you take a few moments to have some gratitude, it's like, things really aren't that bad. Things could be a lot worse. I'm actually doing pretty good. Could be doing better, but where I am right now is okay. And that lightens your heart,
You're so right about that. As soon as you dial in on gratitude, you really do recognize what's in and around your life, and a chance to offer up some perspective. Anything from you, Chad?
I mean, perfectly said, I think, by Dr. Dave there. It's, same thing growing up, you respected your elders, and I just don't think that's being driven home in all households anymore. I looked at my grandparents as they were the final word. Essentially, they've been through it all. My grandfather went through the Depression. There's a reason he kept bent rusted nails in an oil coffee can, because he didn't know the next time he needed that nail. So I just don't, in a gratitude, it's got to be there. But with this society now and social media, like everyone's got to, they need immediate response to everything. I think it really hurts us in honing back to, again, just pure morals and values of raising people accordingly. We forget about that.
Well, it shifts, right? And we're waking up, and there's a lot of old shit that sucked too. Let's go ahead and say that, right? I'm not afraid to say that. Like I'm somebody who's quite tired of the old way. I'm ready for the new way. I'm ready for an evolved way of thinking. I'm ready for us to kind of wake the fuck up and get into what we are living in and breathing in 2022. Yep. So I'm here for it. That older generation was great, but that older generation didn't talk to each other. They didn't communicate. They didn't allow people the ability to express and explore their feelings. They really messed that up. They messed that up horribly, and they passed that down generation upon generation. And so, that's what I mean when I say, like, we got to get excited about waking up. I mean, it's time to start visiting with each other. It's time to lift up our brothers and sisters who are, fellow vets, and pick them up and let them know it's okay to talk about them. It's really why we started this stream, was to have a space where vets could come every single week and hear conversations that they might be into in a certain way, and then maybe pick up a few tools along the way that help them just navigate their life a little bit more. So let me ask you this, Dr. Dave. You're a veteran. It's Memorial Day. You're not feeling the love, right? You're not feeling the love. And maybe you're even somebody who had a buddy die in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so this is really hitting home. It's Memorial Day. You're not feeling the love around you. You're pretty angry. You're pretty pissed. What's a good way to handle that? What's some good advice? Because it's going to happen again. That's why I asked the question. Right. It's going to happen again.
And the reason to think about it now is so that you have a plan for the next time that it comes up again.
There you go.
Get your spouse or get your other family members involved. You can talk about how you're feeling now, but when you develop a plan for next time, get the family involved so that they can help you anticipate what's coming. So let's say if Memorial Day brings back a whole flood of memories, you were deployed and a friend of yours got killed in action. And every Memorial Day, it's on your mind, and maybe even leading up to it, the entire week before, you're starting to feel kind of blue. You're starting to withdraw a bit, maybe losing interest in things a bit. So that's a predictable pattern, because that anniversary is going to come up every year. And you can pretty much predict that the same cues are going to put you back in that same space again. So you can develop a plan. So first of all, if your family knows, and they don't necessarily need to know all the details of what exactly happened, but just to know that it's an anniversary, okay. They can give you some additional space and kind of let you be alone a little bit if you're feeling overwhelmed and feeling like dealing with the family is a bit too much. But then for yourself, do something to memorialize the time. I can think of a bunch of different people that did that in different ways. So there was one guy that I could think of that would light a candle and leave it on his front porch on the anniversary of when he lost his friend. So that's not Memorial Day specifically. That's a more specific anniversary. There was another guy, a Vietnam vet that I had talked to, that would drink half a beer and pour the other half into the ground. And that was his ritual to remember his friend that didn't make it. So doing something, however whatever's meaningful to you to do it, it forces you to set the time aside. It forces you to kind of get your mind in that space and to think about that person, honor their memory, honor their sacrifice. And the ritual gives you a point to organize all those feelings and thoughts and emotions around, and you do it every year.
And the other thing that I like to pick up on what you're saying is you're not focused on what other people are doing. You're not going to get as angry because you're not outward, you're inward. You're worried about yourself. You're filling your own bucket, if you want to use that old analogy. Yeah, I know for me, and I think for a lot of people, it just probably creeps in throughout the day. Some people need ritual. Sometimes, it'll be a song that comes on for me. I'm still somebody who gets really emotional at the national anthem because while it plays, I just think of my brother and my dad, my grandpa, and, that's the end of it. I can inevitably cry. in fact, if you want to guarantee me to cry, it's like put the national anthem on. I can pretty much bring myself there almost every time if I, if I want to. Yeah, that's interesting. What are you thinking about over there, Chad?
It's hard. I think, for veterans, on these holidays to pull themselves up, I guess you'd say, by the bootstraps, right? To find the ability of something that's not hurtful, as opposed to, let me on this anniversary drink a fifth of whiskey, and that's going to solve problems. And I think Dr. Dave's seen it probably more than any of us, is that's kind of the tool that a lot of veterans use, is they'll go down that drinking path, and then it leads to other bad decisions. I think the biggest thing is just to communicate that, up front with family. Said, like Dr. Dave said, have a plan. Talk about it. If it's a day that bugs you, if it's something that is going to trigger, whether it's your significant other, whether it's a partner, whether it's your wife, whether it's a friend, whether it's you're still living at home with mom because you're trying to recover with PTSD, like those conversations have to happen. And no, you're probably not going to approach those conversations the right way all the time. So preface it, before you even open the mouth, like, hey, this is probably going to come out wrong. I'm not the best at this, but guess what?
I love that advice.
This is where I need to come from. This is what I need to be in a safe place. And if I need that 5 minutes, I'm gonna wave my hands and let you know. So communication is going to be the hardest part, and it always is for us veterans. But I think if you can get there, and again, just prefacing that conversation of, hey, I'm not the best at communicating, but I just got to vomit this to you, I think people will slowly start to understand, okay, it didn't come out right, but I know what he or she is meaning, and I know how to facilitate that to give them a better day.
You love that advice, don't you, Dave? I do. I mean, it's such great advice.
Well, and the other important thing too about bringing family into the situation is if they do something mild, they do something benign, and you snap their head off, right? If they know that you're not in a good space and you've communicated that before the confrontation happened, they're more likely to not take it personally and say, okay, that was a biting comment. I'm just going to give you some space right now. And they might not be happy about it, but they're less likely to fire back and escalate the situation up and then kind of make it worse for everybody. And on the side of, coping strategies, sure, you could drink a fifth of Jack and just blur out everything, but think about who else are you hurting? I mean, you're hurting your own support. If you want your spouse to be there for you and be supportive, it's going to be very hard to do that if you're drunk and belligerent and getting into fights, exaggerated because of the effects of alcohol. So pick your coping strategies carefully and try not to undercut your own support. There's people that care about you, and you don't want to isolate them and push them away, even if you need some space, but don't cut your own support.
Yeah, and just to even piggyback off that even more is, kind of when I got out, it was the same thing. I mean, I was perfect case of snapping at family members and, friends and family and the whole 9 yards, only if I had that ability to go ahead and, express those things. I wish I was better in that. The best way with family members and friends, it's always hard for me to communicate. So I'd reference a movie like American Sniper. If either one of you gentlemen have seen American Sniper, there's a perfect scene in there where Chris Kyle is setting and he's watching the TV, but the TV's not on. And he's just staring at this. And then all these triggers and fires are going off and different images in his head. But he's there and he's getting angry, and no one else knows why. For me, that was kind of a thing that I, showed my family. Like, watch this movie, watch these couple scenes, and you might have an idea of some of my triggers or some of my reactions, because I couldn't communicate it. So I was trying to find tools that were out there in the real world that other people could watch, soak it in, go, oh, okay, that's maybe an aha moment for this individual.
The so-called 1,000-mile stare.
That's it.
What's that? What is that? I've never heard that before.
The 1,000-mile stare?
No.
So you get so caught up with your own inner thoughts, like you're watching a movie that only you can see in your own mind. And if anybody else walks into the room when you're preoccupied like that, it looks just like you're.
Yeah.
You're looking through them. You're almost seeing through them.
Yeah. You're in La La Land.
You're like looking out into the distance and not looking at anything in particular, because your eyes are just kind of resting on the horizon while your mind is playing out images from an internal movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen this. I've seen that before in my own life. And in fact, and I've seen it happen a couple of times with my own brother, where then like when he kind of snaps out of it, he's uncomfortable. It wasn't like, he wasn't at a party place. Let's put it like that. Huh. That's interesting to me. I'm compelled now to almost pick up on this a little bit and dive deeper into this, which is if somebody's listening to us right now and that's just resonated with him, that bit about like, I know something's wrong. I just don't know how to communicate it. And this idea that I might show somebody a little scene in a movie and then that's going to help them figure it out. For people that can't find the words, what's some good strategies there, Dave? And then Chad, I might even ask you, how you eventually became good at using words, because initially you said you weren't, but eventually you did get there. So Dave, first up, some strategies for people that are having trouble getting the words out.
Yeah, I like the idea of using movie clips. The problem is if you're dealing with a lot of traumatic memories, you probably don't want to watch the movies to find the appropriate clips to share. So that can be an issue. The movies themselves can be very triggering and kind of take you back to places that you generally try not to think about or go to voluntarily.
Yeah.
But as a teaching point, I think it's fantastic. American Sniper had some good moments in it. Hurt Locker had some really good moments in it. I was thinking about Hurt Locker when he went to get a box of cereal, and he's just staring, and you look down the aisle and you look down the other end of the aisle, and it's just boxes of cereal as far as the eye could see. What should be a simple decision of just, hey, get a box of cereal and meet me back on the checkout line, became completely overwhelming because it was way too many choices for his mind that was just back from deployment. That really illustrated things that I've seen with other people. But other strategies, I think of there should be some tension in the system, like a rubber band, when it comes to isolation and engagement. If you're becoming too isolated over a long period of time, you want to push yourself to stay engaged with family and to be more involved with things. But when it comes to anniversaries, you may need to isolate a little bit more. And I think that that's fine, because your thoughts are going to be coming in floods. You're going to have less bandwidth for dealing with family things. So a little bit of extra isolation with family support of that isolation, I think, is a good strategy. And however you can put that into words, because I've seen sometimes too, spouses get nervous when they have a veteran that's saying, hey, I just want to be alone. I don't want to talk to anybody. Oh, hold on a second. Now, where's this going? If it's an anniversary, I give people a little bit more leeway with that.
I like what you're saying. It's almost articulate to the family, hey guys, listen, Memorial Day is going to be tough for me. For the first little bit of the morning, I'm going to bug out. I'm going to go for a hike by myself. I'm going to do what I need to do, but don't worry, I'll be back by 11 and we'll have a great afternoon together. But I'm going to be preoccupied anyways. I might as well be in nature with my thoughts, and then I'll see you when I see you. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How did you get to the words, Chad?
I don't think I'm still there yet, Matthew, to be honest with you.
Really? You do all right on this? You're getting better at chipping away at this.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's always going to be a constant thing to get better at, right? There's people that can articulate words and thoughts a lot better. And I feel like my mind's still 100 miles an hour and I just kind of spew. And sometimes there's just not a damn filter there, good or bad, right? Again, my biggest thing is just prefacing it, saying, hey, this is going to come out wrong, but I hear where I'm coming from. And I learned that from my wife, right? Because there was a couple of times I've, had conversations with family members and, was just real blunt about it. But, my wife had to like take him aside and say, hey, he doesn't mean any harm by this. He's literally telling you kind of a roadmap to help yourself or to grow, or he's concerned about you. It comes from a good place. It's just not polished. So that's where I'm at. It's a great trait, but it's also a hindrance as well when you try to communicate and people want the fluffiness. I just tend to kind of go A to Z real quick and cut out the bullshit, not beat around the bush. And that's most veterans. I think that's a lot of, first responders and stuff as well. You just don't have time for the fluff, and sometimes fluff is needed. I'm not quite there to be fluffy. But yeah, I think it's for me, it was just, even with friends, I'll tell them something. Hey man, this is going to sound odd, but I just need to get this out. And after it's out, I feel better. It feels like 1,000 tons is off my shoulder. And now we have dialogue. Now we have a conversation. They know where I'm coming from, and it turns out a lot better. So that's been years in the making, and it's going to continue to be years in the making.
Wouldn't you also think though, and Chad and Dr. Dave, you can kind of speak to this too. Sometimes I think people that have a hard time communicating with words, they may have come up in a situation, in a scene, in an environment that didn't encourage a lot of talking. And there might have been a lot of times where you tried to tell somebody how you felt and they said shut up, or they said stop being a wuss, or you know what I mean. There might have been times coming up where you got wired for that sound. Are you a good writer, Chad?
No, it's interesting. My brother, though, is a hell of a journalist. The guy has written more books than I have read. He's worked for numerous newspapers throughout. I mean, we're talking Chicago Tribune, the Sun Times, the Dallas, I think, whatever it is, Maverick. I mean, this guy has written for just about every great paper in the world. And man, I can't put two sentences together that articulate correctly. So
what do you think about as you hear that, Dr. Dave?
Yeah, there are certain family situations growing up where, if you're cut down every time you open your mouth or you vocalize a opposing point of view, a pattern that oftentimes develops is you don't say anything, you stuff it down, tension's building, and then boom, there's this big blow up, but then you hurt everybody around you when you have the blow up. And kind of learning how to be okay with verbalizing things earlier on. Obviously you don't want to complain about every little thing that happens, because then that wears down people too. But when it's important to speak up before it gets that level of tension that it turns into a blow up. And, Joe, I like, Chad, I like what you were saying about, qualifying your statements before, kind of unloading on somebody. It respects the relationship. It's like, hey, look, I really care about you as a person. You're very important to me, but I got to get this thing off my chest. And if it comes out wrong, then we can discuss that. You're giving them permission to push back in a way that's constructive and not feeling like they have to dig their trench and then start lobbing grenades back at you.
Amen.
Yep. Exactly. It's like I said, it's an ongoing process for me. And even with my wife, even some of the dumbest shit that I might think, or like, God, why am I, I'm not bringing this up. This is dumb. I'll bring it up. And she's like, I'm glad you brought it up, because now we can talk. You get my thought process on it, and it eases your tension and your pain and your defensiveness. So we have to be okay with having the uncomfortable conversations. And as much as you beat yourself up internally about it, you just got to have it. I always use the word vomit, but it's just it. You got to get it out there, because if you don't, you're just going to continue to eat that. And then it, like you said, it builds, and then you explode, and then it's not good for anybody.
Yeah. Well, and I just think, I like to put it on men this way and say, you act like a real tough guy. Like every time I'm around you, you act like a real tough guy. And I'll tell you what tough guys do. They talk about their feelings. Tough guys let people know what's on their mind. Tough guys articulate to the loved ones around them what's happening, or they try, even if it's messy. And, I would say that, especially in the military community, right? Like a really high performer, a ranger, something like that. Think about all the things you're trained to do, and all the things you've been taught to do, Chad, right? Yeah. Somebody could teach you how to be a better talker, communicator, writer. Somebody can teach you how to articulate your thoughts and feelings before they turn into the grenade, right? We can just be shooting singles here. We don't necessarily need to pull the pin. But don't you agree, Dr. Dave? These are things we can teach people.
It is absolutely a learned skill.
Yeah.
And you're going to suck at it when you first start. That's just how it is. You get better over time.
It's true.
And I think knowing that you're going to suck and you're going to fail and it's not going to be pretty is that first step. And that's where I was, being a guy that, diagnosed with OCPD as well. Like, everything had to be perfect. It was so hard for me to launch this apparel company. But again, I credit ketamine a lot to opening the brain and the mind and reconnecting things. Like, hey man, nothing's going to be perfect, but you got to take a step forward. And I looked at failure as such a bad thing. No, not anymore. I look at failure as like, I learned. What did I learn out of that? What can I take out of that failure and apply it next time? So one, I don't fail so bad, but two, save some money, because I spent some money on that failure and that hurt. That hurt the pocketbook, that hurt the ego. So just, that's where I'm at. I'm okay failing. I'm okay tripping and falling on the concrete, because I'm going to learn next time. It's all learning for me right now.
Yeah, I encourage everybody. I was lucky enough to interview Seth Pepper a couple of weeks ago, and he's a performance coach, and he's unbelievable. This guy started his sport at 14 and went on to be a national champion 5 years later. And the one theme in our podcast that I freaking love is Seth Pepper is about this phrase: everything is an opportunity. There's nothing that happens to him that he doesn't see as an opportunity. Literally nothing. There's nothing you could throw at him that he doesn't look at and go, okay, what's the opportunity there? And there's so much to learn from that mindset.
Well, if you're going to experience pain, why waste the pain? Right? I mean, if you're going to do something that's going to cause pain for you, or if you weren't doing anything to get yourself in trouble and something came to you, you got into somebody ran a red light and crashed your car, or like me in 2019, I'm walking my dog and I fell and broke my kneecap. Things just happen sometimes. Don't waste the opportunity. So I got the pain. I'm recovering. I got into a fight with my spouse, and now we got to work this through. What are you going to learn from this? You've already paid for it. Get something out of it.
It's a great
why waste the opportunity?
Why waste the opportunity? Well, as we wind down this week, I want to tee up next week, because we're going to be back minus Dr. Dave, who's going to be in Moab getting his off-road training, which I'm so excited for you, man. I can't wait to hear about that.
It's going to be a blast.
It is going to be a blast. But Chad, Metal Joe, and I are going to be here with Dr. Berselli. Tell us a little bit about who this guy is and why folks should come back next week.
Yeah, so Dr. David Berselli, I call him the founder / innovator of TRE, which is your tension and trauma release exercises, something I became a provider in. It's going to be good to hear this, because Dr. Berselli has not only gone around the world and worked with all sorts, from children to adults to veterans, in war-torn countries, right? And he found out, through just studying individuals where we're carrying our stress and our trauma, and most of that was in the psoas muscle, and how to release that psoas muscle. And it's a natural trigger for us to actually release the psoas muscle and get rid of these tensions and traumas. But the problem is like society, right? We chug our Red Bull, we go about our day, and we forget to release it to our animals out there. I look at TRE and I explain to people, if you ever seen a dog during a thunderstorm, right? That dog is tremoring and it's releasing that energy. And so that's what Dr. David Berselli found and created TRE. And it helped me immensely. It's one of the things that kind of opened me up to holistic healing and approaches. He's a gentleman that is right here in the Valley. He's in Scottsdale, Arizona, and would love to be part of the equestrian therapy. He said, hell, if I could even come up and pet a horse or two, I'll teach TRE to the entire, I just want to pet a horse. But just a great individual, very soft-hearted, super intuitive with the body and understanding it. And he was a mentor for me and still is, and is happy to see where Mental Joe is going and where TRE is going. So
cool.
Happy to have him on next week for sure.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah, you mentioned our goal. We have a big mission here. We're not just playing around and showing up every week to play hopscotch here. We have a mission, and which is to put on a series of weekends for veterans and first responders. And that is something we hope to get off at the end of the summer. And a reminder that the hats you see right there on the screen, the Mental Joe apparel hats, the proceeds from this stuff that you pick up from him and his apparel line are going to be the monies that we all use to make these things happen. So if you want to go shopping, it's my favorite picture ever.
Oh.
If you want to go shopping and get, I'm going to tell you right now, dude, my son Gordy is almost 16. He loves the Mental Joe apparel. It's almost all he wears. He loves the logo so much. I think he really respects it, and it's super cool.
No, that's fantastic to hear. It's surprising because you never know how people are going to take it. And give you a quick story. When we went to drop off the boys this last weekend at the play place before we went into Top Gun, two young little gals were running the register, like, "Hey, what is your logo about?" And so I expressed it, and I thought that was really cool because probably the same age as your son.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate that coming from that age group, but
the
fact that they're very interested in it and they're questioning it, that's huge. It just tells me I'm in the right space, and it just tells me I need to send another package full of medium shirts your way for the boys. So,
oh yeah, he's in. They love it. They love it. Well, what are you hoping to pick up next week on the off-roading, Dave? What's the skill you're hoping to pick up?
How to not flip upside down.
That seems like a good idea to me, dude. Seems like a good idea to me. I love it. Well, appreciate everybody spending some time with us, Dr. Dave. We will look forward to seeing you back the week of the 13th. And I guess that puts you back in our pocket. And Chad, I guess I'll see you next Wednesday for our combo with Dr. Berselli.
Sounds good, sir.
Guys, I hope you have a really incredible week, and I thank you for your time.
Yeah, have a great week, everybody.
All right,
thank
guys,
you.
We'll see you later.